Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. So I'll start with housekeeping again. This webinar is being recorded, and you'll be given a link that you can share with anybody you want at probably the next couple of days from the marketing department. Also, because it's a short webinar, if we can put any questions into the chat window, that will save us a bit of time and we can come to them at the end if there are any. Okay then, so we can get started. So this month I'm going to be talking about Teams. Some of you will be glad that it isn't Copilot because we seem to have been talking about AI and Copilot a lot over the last few months. However, even though we're talking about Teams, you're not getting away with it. As with everything, AI falls into every part of our businesses these days. Okay, so Microsoft Teams. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I'm sure all of you are familiar with Teams. You are going to get chat and messaging. You can have meetings like this one and video calls. There are teams and channels to organize where people work and file collaboration between teams. Applications and integration. So you can add any application into Teams, such as Copilot, Copilot Chat, which you can pin in there. Microsoft 365 Copilot natively works with it. But you can add things like Microsoft Forms in there. And, you know, any apps that are available on the left-hand side of your team screen, you can add into it. And it's built on security and compliance and, you know, uses RBAC and all of this sort of stuff and policies that you can create to make it a secure environment. So that's about all I'm going to say about Teams. Most of you will have it because it's in all education licenses from A1 up, Office 365 A1 up. All of you have a Microsoft Teams license for your desktop or mobile device. However, if you've got some tenancies that are not education tenancies, and you want to buy licenses for that, now you have the option of buying it with or without Teams. In education, Microsoft haven't bought that in, but outside of education, so if you've got a charity tenancy or if you've got commercial tenancies for some reason, you might have a commercial arm to your institution, then those licenses can be bought with or without Teams. Okay, so everyone gets the standard Teams license. However, to get more functionality, there is an add-on license, Teams Premium. And you buy Teams Premium for anybody who wants the additional functionality. So you don't have to buy Teams Premium for everybody. So it's not a UUI product. You add it for whoever you want to give this functionality to. So if we look at the additional benefits you get in Teams Premium, so AI meeting recap. So I talked about Copilot a lot, having meeting recap in there. So the Teams Premium license also has a version of meeting recap, giving you a summary of what went on in a meeting. You can brand your meetings, so you can have your institution logos in meetings, in waiting rooms for for a webinar, for instance. So with webinars, you can have waiting rooms and all the additional functionality that isn't in the standard meeting in Teams. Another one then, I think AI meeting recap is a fairly important one for Teams Premium. Another one is translation. If you want translated captions in your meeting, you do need a Teams Premium license. Captioning is in the standard license, but if you want them to be translated, then you need a Teams Premium license. Advanced security, that's an interesting one as well, with some changes coming in there. So you can have end-to-end encryption of a meeting if you have very secure requirements. But it's now starting to integrate with Purview and information protection. So for instance, I'm not quite sure if this functionality is there yet, but it's definitely coming very soon. If you're in a meeting and you try and share in a meeting a document with a sensitivity label, you will be asked whether you are presenting to an audience that you want to share this content with. So that's the first one. And one thing that is definitely coming as well is the ability. So let's say you're sharing a document, and so I'm sharing a PDF file here, PowerPoint file here. You could share a Word document. If there are sensitive information within that document, so credit card numbers, national insurance numbers, that sort of thing, Teams Premium will now blur out that information for you so that you're not sharing it with everybody. So some additional functionality that's coming into Teams Premium if it's not quite there yet. Okay, so Teams Premium. The other one is Microsoft Places. I've talked about Microsoft Places in the past. So Places is for people who do hybrid working, and you want to see if anybody else is in work. For instance, you can do that in the standard Teams license. Microsoft Places then gives you a view of a building so that you can take it into more detail to see where people are. It also gives you the ability to book individual rooms. So if you've got a hot desking environment, you can book a particular desk as well with Places. So that functionality is in Teams Premium, the additional functionality, but the basic functionality is in the standard Teams license. Okay, I've mentioned Meeting Recap, and it is in Teams Premium. However, it's not the same functionality that you get with Microsoft 365 Copilot. Okay, so with Teams Premium, you will get the summary, an automated summary of the transcription at the end of the meeting. You have to turn on transcription, and if you want the video and the timeline, you also need to turn on recording. And that's in Teams Premium. A useful feature as well is speaker attribution. So what speaker attribution does, it recognizes people's voices that are in the meeting. So let's say you're in a meeting room like I've got here, and we've just got the room signed in, but you could have 4 or 5 people around the table. It can recognize their voices from the training you've done in the standard Teams license. So in the transcription, it will say who is speaking, but you need Teams Premium, or Copilot for that as well. In addition, Copilot is going to give you real-time interaction with the transcript. So if you come in late, you can ask, what have I missed? You can get help. You can ask a question outside of the Teams meeting to get help on a particular topic. But you can't do that with recap. It gives you the summary at the end of the meeting. And at the end of the meeting with Copilot, you can query the transcript to see who said something or information on a particular topic that went on in the meeting. So recapping a meeting is useful in Teams Premium, but it's more fully functioned in Copilot. Had a query about this the other day, where a customer has monthly meetings in a Teams meeting room. They're all on premise. So to be able to take a transcript of what's going on there, if you've got Teams meeting room equipment like a camera, microphone, and speaker, not necessarily a speaker, but if you've got a camera and a microphone, it will do speaker recognition to see who's spoken as well as taking the transcript. So useful there for on-premises work that you're not actually using Teams for, but it'll take the minutes for you and tell you who said what during the meeting. So a slightly different application, but and useful all the same. Okay, so Teams licenses are for the individual. So Teams or Teams Premium for the individuals, and the individuals sitting at their desks going into a meeting, like I do day to day, speaking to customers on the phone. However, like I'm doing now, running this webinar, I'm actually sitting in the Teams room, and in front of me, I've got a smart interactive board. I've got a Yealink camera. I've got ceiling spike speakers and microphones. I've got a Yealink adapter for me to share on the screen. So to do this, you don't need a license. Microsoft Teams Room Basic is free of charge for up to 25 meeting rooms. Okay, and that will allow you to do content sharing, like me sharing my PowerPoint on the screen. You can do whiteboarding, so if you want to be explaining something in graphical form, you can use a whiteboard to do that. There's one touch join. I've got a Yealink tablet, something like on the screen there, that allows me, because I've invited the room to the meeting, I just click join and I'm in the meeting already. You can have other hardware as well. So from a basic meeting room bar, which is a speaker, camera, and microphone all in one, and the one-touch join device. Obviously, if you want to present, a big screen is going to be handy. And then on the right-hand side at the bottom, you can have devices that sit outside of a room to show what meetings are booked for that room. Okay, so Teams Rooms is a slightly different Teams meeting experience for multiple people. And you can get them as Windows and Android devices. In reality, Windows devices have more functionality. Like taking transcription or using Copilot as part of the meeting, you need a Windows device to do that currently. Okay, so that's the Teams Room Basic license, and it's for groups of people working together in a room. And as I said, it will take a transcript of what's going on. Okay, so you can get 25 free licenses of Teams Room Basic to do your meeting room stuff. However, if you need more than 25 rooms, so if you're a university with multiple meeting rooms all over the establishment, you may need to get Teams Rooms Pro over and above the free 25, or based on functionality, you may want Teams Rooms Pro for all your devices. Why would you want Teams Rooms Pro? Okay, one of the first reasons is, let's say you're in a fairly big room, you need 2 screens at the front, and on one screen you could have the presentation showing, and on the other you could have all the users or all the people that are in the meeting. Okay, so you could have one screen having all the users and then presentation on the other, or whatever you want to do. It also has multiple device support, specifically if you need multiple microphones to cover a large area. If you need multiple cameras, maybe one at the front, one at the back, or maybe 2 in the corners. So if you want multiple cameras, then you need a Teams Pro license. Some other functionality you get as well, you get front row, which is basically having all your remote users at the bottom of the large screen. And that way it makes them feel more inclusive rather than be dotted all over a screen. But it also supports large gallery, which will allow you to have I'm going to say 10 by 7, so 49 icons, so more people showing on the screen at any one time. If you're using a Teams meeting, you also need a Teams Pro license to get translated captioning or speaker ID or the speaker attribution, which I talked about earlier. On top of that, there's more management of room systems. So if you've got multiple devices, you don't want to be running around the establishment all the time to look at them, so they can be remotely managed. You can have more analytics. There's better security built in. It's got integration with Entra, there's encryption. So a lot of features in the Teams Pro license, Teams Room Pro license, and I know there's a lot of confusion between Teams Premium and Teams Rooms Pro. Both are in effect a advanced license for Teams or Teams Rooms. Talking of Teams Rooms, we also sell the hardware, not just sell Teams as part of the licensing agreements we have. So Teams displays aren't necessarily part of a Teams Room system, but they make the experience a lot better. So we work with people like Smart, Promethean, LG and Yammer, if I pronounce that right. We also work with Yealink. They're not necessarily known for boards, but they've got a all-in-one board, which has a camera, speakers, Microsoft phone, and interactive board. It's all shown there, all in one, similar to a Surface Hub device. So that's an interesting step forward in what you're doing. And I think Smart are adding additional functionality into their stuff as well. So we can provide all of these for you as well as the licensing if it's something you want, and we can get it all set up and everything. Okay, so when we talk about the Teams room systems themselves, we are looking at either a meeting bar, which has a speaker, camera, microphone, all built in, and that's all you need with your board to get a small space up and running. You can see there a one-touch join device, some desk speaker. These are Yealink devices, and you've got with a meeting bar, it's AI that does the focusing and everything like that, but you can buy separate cameras with focus and point and tilt and all this sort of things built into them, as well as you can see here, that this is a sharing hub to allow you to connect a laptop to the screen. But we don't just do Yealink, we do all these other. So Sennheiser ceiling mics are very popular and great quality as well. Another one, Evoco by Biamp. That's an interesting one. That's I call it a door system. I think they're called room systems. That it's an electronic board that sits outside a room, and it will tell you who's using it, who's coming up. But you can connect it to a back-end system that's integrated into Outlook and Teams that will give you much more information about what's going on in that room. So that's Evoco from Biamp, and that's quite a nice little system. Moving on from hardware, but not totally, because we also sell Teams phone licensing, but we also sell Teams phone hardware. So we got Yealink phones there. In reality, when you put in a Teams phone system, most people don't put phones in these days, just to be honest. They'll use the mic and the speaker on their laptop, or they'll have headsets. But we still see phones going on in shared locations and for receptionists and things like that. So Teams phones are still used. And, depending on the requirements, you don't have to have a fancy headset like you've got there. Okay, so from a Teams licensing point of view, anybody with an A5 license has a phone system license. So a license to use Teams telephony. It lights up the phone icon in their Teams client, whether it be on a laptop, desktop, or your mobile phone. And then you can use your telephony from within the Teams client. So that's in A5. You can add a license to any other lesser licenses. So if you've got A3, for instance, you can add a phone system add-on license to it. Common area phone, I think it's now called Teams Share Device. That is a phone for multiple rooms, and it uses a resource account for logging in. So you don't have to log in every time you want to make a phone call or receive a phone call. It's all based on a resource account. Also, from a licensing point of view, if you want to use auto attendance for messages, when you press 1 for reception, press 2 for the technical team, etc. If you want to have auto attendance, Teams need a license, but they are free of charge. Call queues, which are traditionally called hunt groups, allow you to put a call through to a tech team, and the phone will ring on all 5 people in the tech team, or round robin, or whatever you want to set up, so that the calls are shared out between people. So all of those need a license, but those licenses are free of charge. So the licensing is half the equation, but you also need hardware to use it. But a lot of people have got headsets and things already. But the next part is calling. You need a license to actually enable phone in Teams. Then you also need some sort of calling to be able to connect to people through the PSTN, a public switch telephone network. So you can buy them directly from Microsoft. All calls are pooled together per month. You can either get 120, 1,200 or 1,200 plus international minutes as part of it, and you buy that per user that needs to make calls. Communication credits are a pool of money, in effect, and you put into Teams. So if you've gone for a domestic calling plan, you can charge international minutes out of that pool. That's Microsoft calling plans. In reality, not too many people use the calling plans. In the past, they've had their own SIP trunks and done what's called direct routing, where you have your own SIP trunks, possibly have session border controllers that create an encrypted link between your SIP trunks off to Teams, or Operator Connect, which is basically the newer version of that, where it's based on a Microsoft framework where everybody works to this framework to make sure that telephony is more organized now than it was when it first came to Teams. And talking of Operator Connect, we can now supply Operator Connect from Gamma. It's a per user, the same as the calling plans, PSTN calling. So each user that needs to make calls has a Operator Connect license, which gives them unlimited calls per month. It gives them international calling. It gives them premium lines as well. So premium lines, that's a better package that you get from Microsoft at a better price, to be honest. It's integrated into the Teams Phone Admin Center. So apart from number porting, nearly everything is in the Teams Admin Center that you light up once you've got Teams Phone licenses. It has got SIP Trunk Call Manager, which is a backup SIP calling system that in an emergency, when things aren't working, you can divert to other numbers such as a home number or a mobile number. And we can provide professional services and getting it all set up for you as well. So new to us, Gamma Operator Connect. So if you're interested, just get in touch with some of the account managers. I'm running short on time, but one thing Teams has, especially in the education space, is Teams for Education, which allows you to have class materials. It can be integrated into class notebook. You can have assignments and grading. So this is free to all education customers. So you can use this if you want. And it's got integration with Microsoft 365 into your management information systems with a tool called School Data Sync. or you can have integration into Moodle now as well. So Teams for Education, it's there, it's free for all of you. It's something you can use if you want. So I'll leave it there with the where I'm looking at on time. So if I now look and say, next webinar is going to be on the 19th of November. Link should be in the chat window. Next week, we've got Tech Expo. It's not run by us, it's run by our distributor. So if any of you are interested in any of the hardware that we've talked about in this session and others from other manufacturers, you can arrange to go to Tech Expo, and I think two of my colleagues are going to be there, so you can arrange meetings to have a chat with them as well if you want. Okay, yeah, I'll close there. Thank you everybody for coming. Sorry I'm running slightly over, but yeah, it's much appreciated your time. And if you want any information on any of the hardware, just get in touch, or even you want Copilot or Teams licenses, anything outside of that from Microsoft or any other software vendor, just get in touch with us and we'll see what we can do to help you. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye.